Oh, ceasefire! Ceasefire!
That should be a great show.
Hello and welcome to episode number 88 of Unrelenting. A lot of podcasts may say they're the best damn podcast in the universe. We do not.
That's true.
We've gone a
Although
different
we have
route.
gotten emails saying that to us.
I mean, there are some people that say they love the show. They usually disappear or are instantly institutionalized, but that's not our problem, really. So how's the ceviche? I mean, having a good morning? Get your tea in?
It's pretty good. I got my tea, got my ceviche. Need to think of what else I want to eat today.
This is the whole show. Okay, everybody check off the bingo card. Gene talks about what he's going to eat or order from the grocery store.
Oh, boy. I'm going to have a spicy show today. I've got some opinions about the whole Israel thing, and I might piss off a few folks.
Wait, you have opinions? That's hard to believe.
I know. I had to really work hard to try and pull an opinion out.
Now, I will say, if you change anything with your audio, I'm going to have to bring your high end down a little bit. You are clearer than usual.
I have not changed a goddamn thing.
This is the magic of the internet, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the clean feed are like, oh, no, we'll adjust
I'm just looking. I wasn't even looking at my meter. Meter's in yellow, so I'm pretty good volume-wise, so you just have to tweak what now?
Yeah, it was just the high end. It was almost a little bit too, with the sibilance.
Oh, I know what it is.
Because normally
I do the show about 3 minutes after waking up.
Oh, so I've
been awake for about 2 hours.
That'll do it.
So, yeah.
The things you have to adjust for as a professional podcast engineer.
Yes. That would be you, not me. The my pitch definitely is lowest immediately after getting up, and then proceeds to go up throughout the day to where by about 10 p.m. I sound like this.
You're Pee Wee Herman by 10.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to the Unrelenting Show. The good old boys will be on tomorrow.
Sunday, not tomorrow.
Oh,
Sunday.
Sorry.
So, and I don't know if people even notice this shit, but we did end up skipping our last episode because somebody, not me, decided he was too busy to do the show.
Oh, no.
And then decided that, he was too busy to make up for it.
Oh,
during the week.
No make good either.
No make good on that either. I know.
Is
now,
that
I'm
show
giving him
dying
shit
then?
because he can't defend himself, but he's been busy prepping for a conference where he's giving a couple of presentations to a large audience. So it's actual life, real life work shit. But nonetheless, I still want to give him shit.
Hey, on my other show, Grumpy Old
you got
Ben's.
a couple.
Yeah, I know. The Grumpy Old Ben's, I mean, it may be slowly dying. We just said that it was going to not always be live, and we'd get them in when we can. And there are already people that were like, well, I'm going to just stop my donations since the show is dead. It's like, well, nobody said the show was dead.
Guys, I got a hint for you. It's been dead for about 2 years now.
And that was, so we didn't do one on Wednesday. There was not one scheduled.
Right.
And Ryan's like, well, we could do one Thursday if you don't want to miss. And I'm like, well, one, I kind of want to listen to No Agenda this week because it was episode number 1600.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you and I are only 1,512 episodes away from hitting that mark on Unrelenting.
And we're getting further and further back every week.
Yeah.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
Somehow I don't understand. Yeah, they keep pulling away from us, those bastards.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, let me look. And I went into
overachievers. That's what I say.
Yes. And we went into I went into the PayPal account, and I'm like, well, we have a grand total of 0 for a Grumpy Old Ben's this week. So it's not really incentive to get the shows in.
Sure. That makes sense.
So I know it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you stop doing the shows because nobody's donated, you're no longer doing shows, so nobody will donate. So there you go. It's just the way the podcast ecosystem works. We made it 200 and whatever episodes.
So when you saw the 0, did you say Popierdolec?
Is that Polish or Russian?
That's Polish.
I did not, because I don't speak Polish. As you
I thought one of us was Polish.
just partially. And then, I mean, that's always what I was told. But then, I mean, I think it later on became, it's like maybe more in the Czechoslovakian. And that's when CSB.
Oh, you're going to lose donations. Don't say that.
I know. CSB was like, Dad, do 23 and me. They let you know what you are. I'm like, I really don't want to know.
About being Polish. I want my money back.
Right. Yes. You Czech. Oh, I hate you Czechs. Polacks and Czechs are not the same.
Yeah, I bet you they don't like each other. I
mean, you're all from that same little region there. It's all the same genetics. Come on.
Oh, keep piling it on, man.
I know.
This is great.
Gene's like, let's just run this bitch right into the ground. That's what we do.
And when you say you people, what exactly do you mean by that?
The world. Everybody living or dead. Or yet to be living. I don't want to exclude anybody.
Yes. The only minority I don't have genes from, I guess, would be Africa.
And you've done these, the
DNAs. I haven't. I've only done one of them. Certain other people that have short, abbreviated initials.
Yeah, have done multiple.
And
got different results.
3 or 4 of them.
Yes, with different results, which tells me it's a scam.
But happily confirming there's 0 Jew at all in any of them.
Well, is that what you pay extra for that? If you're looking for that,
I got to pay extra.
Results.
We'll get rid of the Ashkenazi Jew for you for an extra $10.
Yes, we'll add or get rid of whatever you want for an extra. So you could just go and associate with whoever you feel like you want to.
Exactly. Now, for people that are into the whole like getting to know your relatives long lost kind of crap, that has, like all those sites, I think, have an extra bonus feature, which is, would you like us to connect you with your genetic relatives? I opted out of that because if I wanted to connect with my family, I would. And Gene's I don't.
Like, I don't. He's like, but then there's a little place for comments. And you're like, unless I'm a descendant of Elon Musk, then please.
that'd be pretty hard to be a descendant of somebody that was.
He's a time traveler.
Exactly the same time as I was.
Time traveler. Or you could be, what if you were his brother that was given up for adoption and you didn't know?
Very likely.
Brother Elon.
We're the same height.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the beard. So, I mean, he loses an edge.
He's missing all the facial hair. He tries occasionally, and there's 3 or 4 of them that creep out. But Elon is not a beard guy.
Yeah, he wouldn't look good with the beard, I don't think.
And some people say, well, that's because he transplanted all the beard hair to his head. And that may be true. I don't know if that's true or not.
I mean, let's remember what his Twitter predecessor looked like with the beard, and it was a terrorist.
Yeah. And Elon would look worse. Yes. So that tells you something. I mean, Jack at least looked like he was sharing a cabin up in the woods with the Unabomber. Musk wouldn't, like, his beard wouldn't even look like it would look like Musk is sharing a cardboard box with a drug addict in San Francisco.
He doesn't want to do that, so
I'm pretty sure he does not. No.
And then on episode 1600 of No Agenda, they were like, oh, well, how much longer are we going to do this show? Talk was brought up, well, maybe we'll go to 2000, which would be, 4 more years?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way they're giving it up during a presidential election cycle, so that's never going to happen.
Yeah, but, I mean, John's pushing my age at this point.
Well, yeah, and if one of them just ends up dropping dead, that was the other question. Well, who would we get to fill in? And both of them said Mo Fax, and people are, like, giving me C. Brooklyn, and others were like, well, Darren O, why aren't you getting mentioned? I'm like, because
it would not be, it definitely would not be Mo Fax. Adam knows exactly what the audience is for Mo Fax and what it is for their show, and it's not going to be Mo Fax.
Yes, and I'm like, the answer I want to give, but people misunderstand comedy and sarcasm, would be yes, because it has to be Mo Fax, because Adam and John have both gone totally woke, and you could only go with the diversity hire.
Well, that's true.
And then I'm like, with that said, Mo Fax is a really good dude, and he's a good podcaster, but yes, I don't believe what he brings to the table. Now, he can change. I mean, anybody can change.
Why would he change? He's got an audience. There's no reason for anybody to change.
Right. But I think he's a good enough, let's just call him, used to be broadcaster, but he's a good enough podcaster that...
I disagree. I don't think he is.
If you put in a different genre, I think he could still handle himself.
I think that I think he's done very well for one main reason. And that is having the co-host of the guy who invented podcasting.
Well, and that definitely
and I
brought
don't
the
say that to
audience
be
in.
mean to
No.
him at all. It's
No.
just that if you listen to the content, which I've listened to probably 5 shows over the last 3-4 years.
However long
And-
it's been around, it seems like about
and
4
first
or
of all,
5
they're
years.
too long.
Well, which I mean, but hey, kettle pot. What do you?
I don't disagree that
But your shows are also too long.
my shows used to be long. They're not anymore. If you've noticed, we haven't had a single show over 2 hours and 5 minutes.
We go snappy now. We try to keep it under
and
2.
neither has, incidentally, just the good old boys. We've been sticking to 2 hours pretty regularly. But no, I think here's the thing. I think Mo likes to talk about topics he's interested in, which is totally understandable, which is why I also I have nothing negative to say. I just don't think that if you just stick Mo out there by himself, he's going to be able to live off of talking in front of a microphone. Like, there's not
No, I
enough
think he
people
can-
interested and willing to pay for that.
Well, that's it. But
Were
that's
it not
having the audience.
for the super boost that he got.
Having an audience is a very strange thing because I think there are a lot of people now that podcasting is something that almost anybody can do. You have the
Mhm.
equipment to be able to do it. Some
Mhm.
people are not good at it at all, but this is like music.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people out making music right now
Well,
that,
and
that I
before
can't
we move-
stand.
Before we move with the, me not really insulting, but to some people, I'm sure sounding like I'm insulting Mo. I don't think John C. Dvorak is capable of having a solo podcast that generates sufficient enough money either.
Now tell me that Adam
and
Curry
he's
also
way-
can't do it solo. Tell me,
Curry could do it solo because he used to do it solo, and I used to listen to him solo, and it was a great podcast. And he's restarted doing his solo podcast again. So, no, I'm not going to tell you that because that's false. But John C. Dvorak is much better as a foil to somebody else, and that is something that I think you just have to accept. Like, that's reality. John is better. John is much better a writer than all of us.
Yeah.
Than anybody well, I know a couple of other professional writers, like people have got a dozen books published. I've only written 3 books, so I'm not really a writer, but John is definitely a much, much better writer. And I tell him that on a regular basis. I probably reply back to him or text him like once every 3-4 months after reading something he's written and say, I think it's your best work yet so far. and
he's like,
then he
donate,
tells me
you
to
son
fuck
of
off.
a bitch.
So, it's like, but it's true. John is a very good writer. As a standalone radio broadcaster, John would have trouble getting syndicated.
Well, I think this is the case for a vast majority of the people. We've talked about it. When you look at the most popular podcasts, almost none of them are solo shows. They're all a conversation, whether it's with 2 people or more. I mean, you get many more than 2, and it can start to break down unless they're there as very specific
It's not
things.
easy to carry on an interesting monologue. You have to have a bit of a preacher type ability.
Well, yes, you have
Just
to be able to
monologue for an hour or longer.
Yes.
Like, I think you're pretty good, but I will also say that just listening to your solo shows, I mean, just be brutally honest, I don't listen to all of them because you're not that level of interesting.
Well, it's the topics, and I do know
It's not just the topics. Like, if you were more,
if I was a hot gamer girl, you would be listening.
If you
to
were a hot
everyone.
gamer girl, I don't care what the topic is. I'd be listening to your podcast, thinking,
and
man, a hot
commenting.
gamer girl just knows how to talk directly to me.
Yes,
No, and this is so that we're getting a little bit into the how the sausage is made here, but that's the thing is like what we have is our podcast is basically a phone call between the 2 of us where everybody that downloads it gets to listen in like the NSA.
Yes. Well, they were doing
onto
it
our
already,
phone
so
call.
why not let everybody hear?
Right, exactly. And so the enjoyment of listening to our podcast is not in anything either one of us says. It's the back and forth tennis game of banter that we're having. That's the interesting bit. And I think for some people, that's as close as they're going to get to being able to just capture and hold an audience. But there's a small sliver of people, and it's less than 1%, it's way less than 1%, that have mastered the solo game. And it's a harder thing to do, and it's not for everybody, for sure. But
no, because you have to have...
It's a skill set. Like, it's a learnable skill set, but besides being able to learn it, I think you have to have some, predilection to being able to get into that groove and stay there.
Right, you need the gift of the
monologue.
gab. Right, you need that gift of the gab.
It's not the gab, though, dude. The gab is between people. This is the gift of oration.
Yeah, well, the ability to, when I say gab, I don't mean converse, I mean talk. Because there are people that you'll start talking to on the phone, and you and I think, both fall into the same thing, where you could just put the phone down and listen for 15 minutes, and it's never, the talk on the other side's never going to stop.
Well, that's true. That's true, but I think that's mostly because most people have an abhorrence to, dead air.
Right.
Even on phone calls, not just on the radio or podcast.
Well, this is it. This is it. And there are very few people.
Yeah.
Rush Limbaugh, I think, was the best I ever heard at being able to talk for length without any kind of stopping. And when it comes to the MoFax thing, I just want to let you know, CSB says Gene is right, came in with a boostergram. And I'm like, okay, so the Kurva, yes, Kurva. And then he said, did you get my 10,000 boostergram? And he sent a 1015 boostergram to ask if we got the 10,000 boostergram.
Oh, let me look.
If I claim no, will you send more boostergrams asking if you got the other boostergram? Because yes, I got the 10,000. I don't know if Gene did, but as he checks that, see, Brooklyn also came in with 8888 for show 88. He said, stay unrelenting. And we may as well just do the boostergrams as they come in, because we didn't have anything through PayPal today. So we may as well hit the boostergrams.
What the hell? Hold on. It's showing me two different accounts with the same name.
I was getting doubled up on LB2, it looked like.
Okay.
I don't know if that means you got the boostergram twice. Probably not.
I didn't get anything.
Weirdo came in on Thursday. Did you get Weirdo's 3333?
Like having third-party managed shit is because stuff just happens that you have no control over.
Yeah, but it works better than the self-hosted stuff.
It's certainly cheaper. Yeah, okay, I finally got in here. No, I have not seen a single inbound transaction since October 23rd.
Well, what do you mean October 23rd? Today is October 20th.
Sorry, October 13th.
Like, damn.
Sorry, which timeline am I in? God damn it.
This is always the question. Because you should have had one on October 19th from Weirdo with 3333.
Did not have anything.
Says cyanide. It'll cure what ails. Yeah, that's true. But we do have that 10,000 from CSB. Privyet, comrades, Gene and Darren. Please invite your listeners to visit my cartoon blog at www.csb.lol and ask your listeners to follow me on Twitter /X at CSB, just 3 letters, CS and B. Then I'll follow back and answer all questions. Yo, CSB, I don't know. That seems kind of dangerous if CSB is going to answer all questions.
Yeah, and then CSB's website, I can never remember. It's like csb.lol or something like that. Correct me if it's wrong.
Right, the lols. You got to go there for the lols. So now, what? Okay, let's do our tech support. What do you got? What are you showing? What aren't you getting?
I had, so here's what I have. October 6th, I had 666 sets. October 6th, I also had 3,333 sets.
I wonder if you're they're still being cached somewhere
and
for your
October
other account.
13th, what's the Craig Darren?
The crack.
Здравствуйте. What's the crack?
Okay. Yeah, what's the crack? That's what we talked about. That. Yeah. That was the Irish.
That was thing. October 13th. That was the last inbound one I had. I've not gotten anything since.
On Monday, I have Beer Tarded with 1111 saying there's a reason why news is referred to as programming, and that's true.
That's
on
true.
Saturday, we got for Unrelenting from Bad Career Advice Chad. He said, Gene, I had similar fake heart attacks twice, supplemented a ton of targeted B vitamins, and all the issues went away. Now my blood pressure and heart rate are normal. Overweight people are often deficient in B1 and B5. Check it out. Also, I'm not a doctor,
Not
nor do I
overweight, I'm
play
just
one.
big boned.
Right. And that came with a 6969 Satoshi boost. So
Oh, nice.
my question would be which.
Yeah, I'm not getting jack shit. So
Well, see, I love this, man. People are
I know
boosting.
you do. I know you do. Because now you can even say, well, we both get it because it's in the thing.
It's a
And
thing
then
in the thing.
meanwhile, you're the only one getting money. Yeah.
I'm looking to make sure that nothing changed.
Just remember, people, if I don't get that, then I don't get the message either. So, it's much safer and easier to send me something direct.
I still got you in here as Sir Gene at Get Albie. I wonder for those who have sent in, if you can look at whichever program you're using. Let's see. Well, I can tell.
So, will it tell you who you're sending it to, or will it not?
I'm not sure, but I'm looking here. It's Fountain, and Podcast Index from CSB was the 10,000. Now, did you get that one today?
Nope, I haven't gotten anything today.
Well, CSB, did it say it went through? Because CSB will usually know. They'll tell you if it goes through.
He'll know.
But the Fountain ones.
Get LB, Sir Gene, very straightforward, or Sir Gene at Get LB.
Yeah, and those Fountain ones, man, that should be pretty easy to look at and be like, well, are they looking? We changed that last week during the show. So by now.
What's the little symbol for you? Is that a bee or something? What is that little thing with the two antennas sticking up at the top of its head?
Where?
The logo.
The LB thing. Yes, I think that is a bee or something like that. I don't know why. I mean, it's just a cute little mascot that they have going on. But CSB, I'm sure he will look at all of your problems of getting your Satoshis. I know it's in the RSS feed. I just don't understand why it's not coming through immediately for.
I don't know.
For everybody going into the podcast index, I would think. Although I know they do some caching there because they're the ones that like to do. You sign up with them and they'll add it in. That was the way this whole thing started. Although it's supposed to revert to the real RSS feed.
Why don't you just resubmit it?
Well, it is. Every day we do a show, the RSS feed is refreshed.
Is it though?
Yeah. I mean,
I guess it should be, right?
I go to Podverse and I say, Podverse, yes, I want to really give these guys a nice big boost. And it shows me Darren O, which is the one Satoshi, which goes through to my Satoshi stream bot. So that's where the messages will pop up for me now. And I've got my 49 going to Get Albie, and I've got the 50 going to Sir Gene at Get Albie. So that is correct. So if I boost from here, this is always.
What app are you using? This is the best part of the podcast.
I know this is always good.
Testing.
I go through and I go, I'll just boost ourselves, which is, there's nothing more fun than boost. But I'm going to boost directly from the Podverse. And right now you should get a boostagram from me that was like boost. That's how it all works.
Nope, nothing.
This comic strip blogger says, Corva, via Podcast Index, it went through to Gene at Get Albie. Tell Gene to check in his Get Albie dashboard. Corva.
Yeah, I'm literally in the dashboard, and the last incoming was on the 13th of October.
You're at the getalbie.com dashboard?
I am. Yeah.
You go to Get Albie. You go to dashboard. Right now, I see here my latest one. Darren O'Neill sent me a boost.
Really?
166 Satoshi from Podverse.
And it ain't working.
It shows me I've sent 163 to both Sir Gene at Get Albie and myself.
You may have done something, but Sir Gene didn't get it. So
then I got, although it is showing up everything twice in the Get Albie dashboard today, so something weird is going on there.
Yeah.
It's the beauty.
I'm going to revert back to my original advice. Don't send a goddamn thing to anybody.
Don't send anything, at least not to Gene, because he has the worst luck when it comes to any of this stuff.
You know, what I do get is, PayPal works.
Does it?
Yeah. Yeah, because remember that guy sent a hundo and said that this is for Unrelenting?
Right, and it was to your PayPal. That was
it was to my PayPal. So which, incidentally, it was to one of my PayPals, but not the one that I use for podcasting.
Well, that's even weirder.
Yeah, so I think he just Googled, my name and then the word PayPal and then found it.
He's Googling Gene.
Because like, wait a minute, that I don't use that for podcast stuff.
Oh, do you know what's weird? This is very weird. The duplicates are what's coming in for this show. Like, I'm getting your boost because I have two different amounts, because mine is my split is a 49 and yours is a 50, because I have one of mine going to a different service.
Oh, okay.
And both of these boosts are different. So for some reason, Get
You're getting
Albie.
both of them. There you go. Nice.
They're sending me your half of the boost. Yes.
I wonder how that happens.
Oh, man, that's weird, because you do not have a different number, I don't believe, when you do the Get Albie thing. I think it is the recipient name is the only thing that's different. I mean, we'll have to verify that after now. Now, is this the ad? I'll just send it to you and see if this matches what Get Albie tells you to put into your.
Okay.
Because this is what I've got for you.
We really should do this off air, not on air, because this is boring as fuck content.
Except for everybody that uses Get Albie and has multiple people and are like, why is one of the people in the show not getting?
Clearly, the one person that's getting all the money is happy to not talk about it. So,
This is like, I can't believe nobody's sending anything to the show, Gene.
So, no, that would be a very different number.
It's okay. What you need to do is take that little part and with the right number and send that to me, and then we should have you. As far as I knew, that was just what you needed to do was change the name, but I guess not. It's not like, because that's what we did with Satoshi Stream, which was using another value. So I guess that makes sense. So thanks to everybody for sending in all the unrelenting donations and keeping Gene directly out of the...
Yeah, so basically you put my name as the recipient onto your node number.
Oh, this is great.
Which gets everything coming to your node that's supposed to be meant for my name. That's awesome. I love it.
This is awesome.
And you're like, yeah, I don't know why it's doubled up, but it must be an error. Not a big deal.
Hey, I'm just glad they're different amounts. Otherwise, I would have been like, I don't know, just coming in twice.
You'd be like, nope, looks good to me. It's all there. I just, yeah.
And the silent partner in the show, CSB, says, Curva, no fucking way I'll be using Pay fucking Pal and Fountain app. There is split button that shows Sir Gene and Split. So something is fishy as duck, Curva.
Yeah. Well,
I was stealing from Gene.
Basically, it's just been stealing my money.
I didn't mean to steal from Gene, but yet there I was stealing from Gene. All these numbers are so long, I don't see very well.
Yeah,
and all Gene has to do
that's the excuse.
All you have to do is
I don't see very well.
You just have to cut and paste what you need now. So all you got to do is go into your.
I've got it.
Your settings button, and then you'll have it.
Yeah, there you go.
And then all I got to do is put this magical number in. Everybody always remember, if you want to get the correct funds to the correct people, put in the right numbers.
Yeah, it's the custom value one that's different.
So
the address is the same, the key is the same, the values, the custom value one is different.
Okay, so the name is kind of irrelevant.
Apparently, the name is just for show.
To show who's getting it, and it's that custom value.
So yes, we're disambiguating the communication with Albie in here.
And now it is updated, and everybody, I mean, again, I don't know how quickly
do not
this
send the goddamn thing for the rest of the show, people. This ain't going to get updated until tomorrow. I don't want Darren getting more test donations.
You want to get me enriched.
I
wonder if it shows me on here. Actually, it should show me if this is a different one. Oh, yeah, so I should be able to check. Here on Podverse, it will tell you. So let me look now and see how often they...
Well, you do that. I'm going to eat a little more ceviche.
Oh, you got some ceviche. Yeah, it's still the old value, so that's weird. It'll probably take a little bit of time for Podverse to go, we should be checking this again. But at some point, that'll update.
Hopefully a day or less.
Yeah, I would guess less.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have no idea why I would say that, but I would guess less. In the meantime, I mean, don't worry about it. I'll make sure I'll share whatever that comes in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
with Gene, and neither one of us is going to be the new co-host for No Agenda.
No, that's true.
But I mean, we're probably higher up on the list than Mo Fax. Adam just didn't want to show his hand.
I don't know about that.
The show will never continue on, I don't believe, without one of them. Although I will say,
there was I think Adam's talked about it, so it's not like a private thing anymore. So back a couple of years ago, whatever it was, when they first moved into their new house in Fredericksburg, I was out there visiting, and we're sitting by the fireplace, and Adam said, I've been talking to John about this topic, and it's not an easy one, which is, are we going to continue the show if one of us dies? And so I don't, not to think that John necessarily is going to be the first one to die, but let's say he is, then what does Adam do? And I said, well, I think you should know the answer if you don't. I had your wife as a guest in my show, and it was my top rated show of all the Sir Gene Speaks. People love listening to her. You guys should start doing a show together. And, at the end of that conversation, that pretty much became a thing. And now they've been going for what? Over a year for sure, but it's however long Curry and the Keeper's been around.
Yes. And the beauty is the show does not have to continue. It would just be borrow that RSS feed and tell everybody there's a new show with Adam because that one is stopping. So, but I will say we do have a direct audio of the answer to that question, though.
If you had to pick a co-host for a new show, would it be Darren or Sir Gene?
Yeah, it's just an unanswerable question.
Exactly.
It's an unanswerable question. I probably like both of them too much. Dvorak and I are not actually friends. We're awkward. We're awkward together. So either one of them totally qualifies because I just like smart people.
See, there you go. Directly from Hog Story.
Yeah. So,
wasn't that the nicest blow off in the world, though? I like them too much.
It was good. I like them right where they are too much.
The guy is a professional for a reason. When cornered with a question.
Don't move at all. And here's the thing. That it is an impossible question to answer anyway, simply because when Adam started doing the show with John, it was not the show that people are listening to today. And I would dare say most people, over 50% of the people that are currently the audience of No Agenda, would have listened to one episode in show 1 through 10 and would have not come back.
You know what? 1 through 10 sounds a lot more like
us.
This show, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And it's because their show was basically, hey, we talk on the phone and let's just record it. So, John, what restaurant did you go to last week? Oh, yeah, I found this great wine at this little place up on Russian Hill in San Francisco that I went to. And you know what, though? The car drive to that place was horrible. I don't know about these potholes they keep not repairing in the city.
Well, he's still going on about crazy. The potholes.
Yeah, exactly. And what about you, Adam? It's like, well, I think I'm gonna have to move out of my building. They keep building some train station next to me. I don't know what's going on, but it's noise all day, all night long. Like, this building is going down the toilet. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna take my Mercedes diesel and just drive somewhere else. I mean, that was basically their first few episodes. Was that? It's a lot more similar to our show than it is to the current No Agenda.
Yes, it merged into what it is because they found a niche. They found something that worked. They found something that resonated with people. And
I don't even think it was that complicated. I don't think there was a feedback mechanism needed. I think certainly John is at a point in his life where he ain't changing for anybody, baby.
Well, that's true.
So all it was that world events started happening, and I think it started really with Adam kind of paying attention to the European Union's what was the document that they had? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think I remember sitting on an airplane flying back from Europe and listening to the podcast where Adam was starting to say, I just read this whole thing and this is ridiculous. I can't believe that they're voting on this and none of the European countries actually know what it is. I can't remember what the document was. I'm sure somebody will know. But yeah, that was the pivot point in my memory where their show took a drastic turn into politics and into current events, but not like local current events, but rather, world current events. And it's just been growing ever since then. And of course, undeniably, when Adam first went on Joe Rogan, that just completely solidified the whole, the whole topic. Because a lot of those people came over and people that had never listened to No Agenda that were watching Joe, they were hungry, thirsty, whatever the expression is, for an alternative viewpoint. I mean, that's the one thing that Joe's got in common, or all his guests, I think, have in common, is they all have alternative viewpoints from the standard mainstream.
Well, and that is the secret to making an audience grow, is be on Joe Rogan, be on Glenn Beck, be on Megyn Kelly. That is the secret. I mean, because
just Joe Rogan, the rest of them don't really matter.
But they do to a certain point, because
they really
you hear the donations on No Agenda. Yeah, 90, 80% maybe are the Joe Rogan ones, but you hear enough that, hey, I first heard you on Glenn Beck. I don't know if I've ever heard of I first heard you on Megyn Kelly, but I have definitely heard multiple, we heard you on Glenn Beck and started listening. So you need to expose you have to go after another audience, because when you just put podcasts out there, nobody's going to find them. I don't know if anybody ever finds a podcast randomly by going and
not anymore.
Right. I'm searching for a political podcast.
I remember those days back in the mid 2000s when I would actually check to see what the new podcasts were.
Yes.
On Apple.
When there was like 3 new ones a week, not 3 new ones
that few, but there was probably like 20 to 30. It was a manageable number of new ones that you could peruse through. But I'm also old enough to remember when I did the same thing with the World Wide Web.
Yes,
where going to the Netscape page and looking to see what are the new websites that have been added to the index. Oh, there's 36 of them.
Do you remember when getting listed on Yahoo meant an actual person had to review your site?
I don't, but I believe if you say that's what it was, I believe it. I mean, I don't recall ever having to talk to anybody on Yahoo.
You didn't talk to them, but you had to submit it and a real person would look at it before.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely a submission thing. It wasn't like you're automatically in.
Right. And it wasn't just it was not as they do now, where it's
was it Mozilla? Was that what it was? Or was
the
it
browser?
Netscape? I'm sure. No. Well, yeah.
Mozilla came before the Netscape.
What was the website, the original website that had the index? I'm trying to remember. I think.
I don't really remember anything before the Yahoo.
Yeah, I was on before. So I remember that it would have been like 91, maybe 90 or 91, right around that time frame. Because before that, like in the 80s, it was Gopher in the late 80s.
Right.
And then the first websites were, I want to say that I remember going to were 90, maybe 91, but it was definitely one of those 2 years. And I thought it was maybe it was something else, but
it was not a well thought out infrastructure at that time.
No, it was all text based. And it was like, if somebody had a graphic, there'd be a bunch of people complaining about the wasted bandwidth.
Right. How dare you?
Why do you have your header That's the same image on every page. You're wasting our download.
That's when caching had to come in and all the optimizations.
Yeah, that's right. Because caching was a thing to actually save bandwidth originally.
Yes. Yeah. That's how old we are. We remember when caching was like, well, no, the page will load a lot faster the next time you go to it.
That's right.
Now everything is instantaneous.
Yeah, and you'd have web accelerator
yes.
devices.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. Where it's like go through, you get it through this one instead, and then it'll
Yeah.
Well, and weird stuff.
It's certainly in the very earliest days, I was sitting on a modem, so it was modem speed internet. But I got onto ISDN fairly early. I got ISDN in 95. So I had a digital 24-hour-a-day connection to the internet starting with 95.
That is a little early. Well, I don't remember when
and I'll give you just for context, ISDN was so dual channel ISDN was 128 kilobits, and that cost $580 a month.
Wow, which is crazy. I don't remember what the cost was when
which
AT&T,
was just a fraction of what a dedicated T1 line was, because that was thousands of dollars a month.
And at that time, a T1 is what, a gig or not a gig? I'm sorry,
1.5
megabit up right each way.
Yeah, or 24 voice channels.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when AT&T at Home came, and I think that was our original download speed. I think that was 1.5 meg was the original cable modem.
That's pretty damn good actually for cable modem
back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. But yeah, because I had ISDN starting with 95, and I got a T1 line. I kind of got a T1 line. I got a T1 line at my office in 2000 because my landlord got the T1, and he was totally fine with me being on it and using it, and because he was barely using it. And then I kind of got in trouble for hosting a Model Mayhem on there.
See, do not host websites at home.
No, don't do that.
Although now you totally could.
Well, yeah, now you totally could. But it was like a T1 line was still something that was hard to fill. And the main reason that I wanted a T1 was for latency, because that had much shorter latency than ISDN, and playing video games online as I did back then, that was a very important thing.
DigiGuru says ISDN was 2B plus D. What does that mean?
I can't remember what that stands for, but it had two channels. So single channel ISDN was 64K, but generally by the mid 90s, everybody was doing dual channel.
And now the RSS feed has been
and you could also, incidentally, so the two channels could be either analog or digital use. So you're having ISDN meant you can either be online and sending data back and forth at 128K with two channels, but it also lets you plug in two phone lines into it. So you had two phone lines as well, which is where the 2B and then the D is data probably. And so you, if you used one of the phone lines, then your data would drop by half.
Right. Could, right. If you used one,
either or.
And then who wants phone lines? Who even use? I mean, I've often said
I had to. Yeah, I mean, I used them back then.
Well, back then,
I was running a business.
Yes, but I've said that with these little devices that everybody carries around now,
we didn't have those back then.
No, but
I don't know when you got your first cell phone. I did not get mine until they became more affordable. So I didn't have the brick phones. I
had a cell phone by the time I was going to college. So it was 1988. I think I had the first cell phone.
You didn't.
I did. And
they were over $1,000 back then. How the hell did you have a cell phone?
I the guy that I ended up working for at the carpet store, he was upgrading his cell phone out of his Lincoln Town car. I was the one that installed it for him. Believe it or not, I used to know how to do all this stuff.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
And he let me have the old one. And back then,
No, this is back before you grew to your full height, so you could still get into a car.
well, it was a Lincoln Town car. So anybody, I could
Okay,
have
fair
brought
enough.
3 hookers into the trunk with me and it would have still had
There
plenty of
probably
room.
were 3 hookers in that trunk.
Yes.
Hello.
But he's like, okay, can you install this? You could have the old one. And it was an old, not
So you
portable.
had a car cell phone.
Yes,
Okay. Got
correct.
it. And you got it for free. That makes sense.
Because back then, what people don't understand, right now people look at service being the problem because of the bullshit of like, hey, you could have a free iPhone 15.
Mhm.
Bullshit. But back then, you literally paid as you went. So it was like 10 or 20 bucks a month to have
Mhm.
and use it for a few minutes. But each minute was like $1 or something like that.
Mhm. I think
But
it was more than that.
It was in that range. It was like, it wasn't crazy if you really had to, let somebody know you're running late. But yeah, the phone conversation were definitely very quick because I can't really talk all along because
I'm on cell phone. Yeah, it's kind of like when sat phones came out. It's kind of a similar deal. Satellite phones.
yes, the original Motorola brick DigiGuru says he had one. They cost $4,000. That's
There you go. Yeah, my first cell phone, I think I want to say I got it in probably 94 or 95, and it was a like something PCS, and it was a very compact for the time handset, which means it was about the size of the iPhone, but about 3 times thicker. But it was about that same size. So it was basically the size of something you hold next to your head. So it was that's probably about right. 3 iPhones thick and about an iPhone in other dimension. I can't remember the name of the company. They eventually got bought by somebody else. I mean, the whole market consolidated. But I remember the cool thing about it was that it had much cheaper plans. So instead of paying like $50 a month and then $1 a minute, you would pay, I think I paid $70 a month, and it included like 200 minutes.
Oh, bargain.
Yeah, so it was like 3 times cheaper. And it mostly worked. If you get outside the city, you go into the farmland areas, you got no signal, obviously. But in the city, it worked fine. So I remember this distinctly. The awesome thing about having it is that your calls to the call-in talk radio show station that I listened to were free. They didn't subtract from your minutes. So I was online on talking to guys like Jason Lewis, and I called into Rush a lot of times, never got on.
It wasn't easy to get through to Rush. And I just sent you one and put it in the troll room. I had one of these as well. These were big in the day. These were the transportable cell phones.
Oh, did you send it to me? I don't see it.
Over on, I'm sorry, I sent it to the wife who had messaged me that she was going to be an hour late for lunch today. She's probably like, what? No, I don't want that.
So you're admitting it is it is a waifu. It's not an actual wife. You're admitting it now.
Gee, what do you mean it's an actual wife?
Well, a waifu is a cartoon character, pretend wife that people have that are, a lot of them are known on the social. A wife would be an actual human woman that you have sex with.
Right. Oh, well, wait,
So you
have sex with?
Okay,
Well, then it's
got it.
totally different.
Okay, yes, it's totally, yes.
But this is
Darren's waifu will be back from working her job.
right. Exactly. But I had one of these cell phones as well from Radio Crack. But I think that was the second one. No, man, that had to be the first one then. The second one was a smaller, non-transportable one.
Yeah, I remember these. These definitely came out in the late 80s. I remember those.
Yeah, this was the first one that I had in the car.
Yeah.
And then you just had to run. They had magnetic antennas that you ran out the window.
Right. Yep.
But that was living in high cotton back then.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Like, damn.
Radio Shack, that's fancy.
Uh-huh. Then I worked for Radio Shack, and
Oh, you were a high-tech employee.
I know. It was there were worse jobs, but
Yeah.
like Circuit
I
City.
had a love-hate relationship with Radio Shack because it was the only store that I could get electronic components for back when I used to actually tinker with electronics. But they also had the absolutely worst quality of any other product. So it's kind of like and you had a huge catalog of parts you could order from, which was great. But like anything actually sold in the store was the cheapest Chinese piece of crap stuff you can get.
Yeah, a great majority of it. There was a couple things they had, and then they had a line. I forget what they called it, but it was not the Tandy line. There was a line of audio gear that they came out with that was actually decent.
And I had some of those. Yeah, those were pretty good. Like I had the Minima 7 speakers, 7s and then 77s. So I had both of those. And there was like I never had their actual audio amps or anything. I didn't like those. Back in the day, I had Onkyo gear.
Yeah, I still got Onkyo.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've actually probably got like 3 of them sitting in the basement because every time I upgrade,
one of them might have been mine.
Yeah, maybe. That was with at Circuit City. That's what I learned was that without going nuts and spending Macintosh kind of money.
No, don't even go there.
No. Why did you do that? That's where all your money was.
No, God, no. I had a friend whose mom remarried a much older guy. And so he had already made his money. This is like back when I was a kid. And so I remember going to their house and then, being shown the Macintosh and the Logan Martin speakers and all that, like multi-$1,000 per piece of equipment kind of shit.
But it sounded good.
Well, it sounded extra good in the 80s and 90s because it was so far ahead of its time.
Yes.
I don't know that today.
Yeah, technology
is enough.
Has caught up on a lot, but that's when I was selling the audio gear back in the
back of your truck,
early 90s, right? Out of Circuit City.
Yeah.
That I learned that when it came to the affordable stuff, the Onkyo and Harman Kardon back in the day were pretty damn good. Kenwood was a little step up, and then you had the Pioneer and Sony. And Pioneer has their top end stuff was really nice, but the consumer end stuff back then was garbage. And I was like, okay, Onkyo. That kind of seemed like the nice trade off in getting a quality sound without spending a ton of money.
It was better quality than Sony, and Sony was kind of like the mass market, decent quality stuff.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, I remember when we opened up the Circuit City here, they brought a couple of guys up from a store, I think in the St. Louis area, that had been opened to be like, train us on what to do.
Right.
And of course, Circuit City would put all the crap in the ad, the crappiest of the crap. And I remember once they had a dual cassette deck. And of course, a woman came in to buy the dual cassette deck that was in the ad because you saw it in the ad, and that's what I want.
Yep.
And this dude was doing everything he could to move her up to a Kenwood deck. Yep. Because the people that ran the Circuit City didn't want you to sell the shit they put in the ad. It was the constant battle of...
I had a dual Kenwood deck. Dual Kenwood cassette deck. I remember that thing.
Yeah, they were nice.
2X copying.
They were nice. But she finally went to him and asked, like, well, what you keep trying to sell me this. Is there something wrong with the Sony or Pioneer, whatever it was?
Yep.
And he said, not if you're looking for a doorstop.
Oh, wow.
Truth in advertising. That's all you.
Yeah.
But they kind of frowned upon that sales technique as well.
I could see that. That's a little too much truth. Probably didn't make a sale at the end of the story. Well, I always had a Best Buy next door, so it was very easy to go see what was the latest and newest stuff. I think it was even the original Best Buy store is the one that I used to go to.
Ooh.
Well,
that's true. They started out in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah. But it was the Best Buy next to Southdale in Edina, for anybody that actually knows Minnesota. And that store was tiny in comparison to the size of the stores that they eventually ended up building. But like, I remember going there in the 80s, and it was probably half refrigerators and washing machines, and then maybe a quarter televisions and a quarter audio gear. And it was where everybody that wasn't looking for a Macintosh went to buy audio gear. So it wasn't the cheap shit you'd buy at Sears, which, you know, contrary to what it's like, to people that are younger than us, Sears is basically what Amazon is today. So back in the olden days, when the boomers were young, Sears was the Amazon. It was the place that had a huge catalog of anything that you could order from anywhere in the country.
Or the world. Don't you remember the episode of MASH where they order a bathtub or something from Sears?
Yeah. I don't know. But it Sears, for all practical purposes, all Amazon did was take the Sears model and out Sears because Sears
they
somehow
put it online.
Lost its way.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of those companies that could have pivoted.
Yeah.
That refused to because, well, nobody's going to want to shop online.
Yeah. Like, in fact, in your little neck of the woods there, the Chicago, you had the Sears Tower.
Yeah.
What's that called now?
The Willis Tower, unless it's changed again.
Well, I don't even know what Willis is.
I don't either. Probably the dude that bought it. What you talking about, Willis? Maybe it was that guy.
That's probably that guy. But yeah, the Sears Tower, you know, Sears was the store that you could buy goods from anywhere, which I'm sure people don't think about this right now, but Amazon at some point will be that. They will have gone past their prime. Get it? See what I did there?
Yeah, I got you, man. That was a great Amazon joke. Hey, just tip your waitresses, will you?
That's right. But not today. Wait for a couple days until the files get updated and my correct address is in there.
I looked, the RSS feed is updated, at least on our end. So now it's just waiting for the apps to do it.
You would say that, mister. I've been getting both of your donations every time.
For a whole week, which means I outed you out of like 15 cents so far.
Thousands and thousands of pennies that went to you.
It wasn't even, if it was thousands of pennies, that means it's over $10. That's not, that's questionable.
It's questionable.
That is questionable. DigiGuru says, we called that place Circuit Shitty back in the, you know, I'm like, that's what I call it. There were days when I was pissed off at work that when the phone would ring, I would say, fuck you for calling Circuit City. And then we'd be like, what? Thank you for calling Circuit City. What? Oh, okay.
Yeah, or you would reminds me of Shitty Walk in South Park.
Yeah. Shitty Walk. Mm-hmm. Fuck you for calling Circuit City or Circuit Shitty.
That's funny.
Yeah,
all right, let's get to serious stuff though.
No, you want to finally get this? We're now.
We've been bantering about nonsensical things for a while now.
Yeah, 88 episodes.
Yeah. All right, we're done now. At this point, we're going to get serious, boys and girls.
We're finally getting serious. Yeah, you had some thoughts about Israel.
If I was still doing my own Sir Gene Speaks, I would probably just do it on there. But since I'm not, and you know, I mean, the RSS feed is up, but there's probably like 4 people subscribing.
That's all. I mean, that Sir Gene Speaks has died.
Has dropped off. Well, I haven't had an episode in a year.
They're like, where is he gone? Is he dead? What happened to Sir Gene? Do we not follow him on No Agenda Social? You don't follow me still. I'm hurt. I'm like,
I do too, don't I?
No,
I'm supposed to follow you.
You unfollowed me on purpose to make a point a few episodes ago.
That's right. I did, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. Well,
like,
I'll
I didn't notice. I never see him on the No Agenda Social anymore.
That's because you weren't following me. That's why. Because you said, I don't follow you. So you should at me if you need something. I'm like, oh, okay, fucker.
I've always followed you. Game. I just don't read what you post.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then again, I do the same thing right in Signal. I'm like, I get post after post. And I'm like, oh, do I want to read
You don't read all my Signal posts?
I read them.
You get about a quarter of what everybody else gets.
I get what the General Lee and how to make your own General Lee. And if I was really, that was something.
It's important things. How to make your own General Lee.
If my eyes had not blown out at some point, if I had gotten the money, I would have. That would always one of those cards. I was like, yeah, I would love General Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not.
That video was pretty good because we're actually talking about a real thing here. I sent Daryl. I don't know what his name is.
Me and my
One
brother
of those
Daryl.
guys. I sent my host guy. I sent him a video of 5 mistakes that people make when they build their own General Lees. But here's the cool part about the video is the video is made by John. What's his last name? The guy that was the guy from Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, Schneider.
Right. Schneider, John Schneider. So he's talking literally about the car that he drove in the show and then walking around and showing his version of that car that he has in real life. So it's actually kind of cool. And he looks younger than I would expect him to look. He must have been like super young in that show.
Yeah, I think he was only like 20 or something.
He must have been. I guess Tom Wopat was a little older. I think he was 30.
And CSB did send another boost, and no, it's still not fixed yet, CSB, but it will be by the next show. You have to make sure in your program that that is updated and that we have different values for the user or whatever they call it. But yeah, everybody should have their own General Lee. Now you just can't have the flag on the top of it because people will then
he's got the
destroy
flag.
your car. I know, but in Chicago, I don't think you could. I wouldn't. Can you imagine driving one of those down into Englewood in Chicago?
So I drove my car. I drove
Your General Lee?
In my General Lee, I drove in 1990. What year would it have been? 90. Was it 4 or 5? 4. In 1990. No, it would have been 5. In 1995, I drove out to see a buddy of mine in North Carolina where I picked up a Confederate flag. And yes, we all know it's not really the Confederate flag. It's the flag of Virginia, blah, blah, blah. But I picked one up and I had it hanging out the window on the drive back. And then I kept it in the car for about 2 or 3 years until it got weathered by the sun. And then I took it down. I never had anybody attack my car.
It was a different time.
It was a different time.
Because the Confederate flag was not seen as racist, even just 20 years
Probably
ago.
was by some people.
Well, a very few. Because I remember a guy, and he may still be around, that was an old black dude down somewhere in the South that his whole thing was the Confederate flag, that he like had it and he rose, every day he would dress up and he'd put it.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it doesn't represent the one bad aspect only of that time and place.
That's true.
And that's
It's like-
where people just, it's like, again, you got to be a little bit more broad-minded, as Sinatra used to say, but that's when he wanted to, think about chicks.
He sure did.
You got to be way more broad-minded. But to look at something like
Broads.
that and be like, this is only about this, it's like, no, there are a lot of
No.
Southern traditions that have nothing to do with racism.
Yeah. And really, it was mostly about the war and Northern aggression.
True. The
So-
Northerners were the bad ones.
They were. Yeah. And anybody that actually reads history will figure that out pretty quick. If you
Another
turn that-
boostagram, I'd like this, because CSB is sending me boostagrams, and he says, Kurva, Darren, let Gene speak about the Middle East. Fuck other topics.
Yeah, you do seem to keep pushing me off the Middle East topic.
Thank you, CSB, for supporting. And that's what a true producer does on a show. It's
That's right.
Yeah,
he
Darren.
yells into the earpiece. Quit stalling. Let him talk. God damn it.
Let the Gene talk. Let him talk now.
Okay. All right. So here's the deal. My general stance is the same as it's always been, and it hasn't changed, which is the U.S. has no business being the world police. I think that's bullshit. I think it's something that actually creates negative effects for the United States from a lot of countries when we go in and fuck things up. So U.S. should be staying out of Israel, just like it should be staying out of Ukraine, just like it should be staying out of Taiwan. And it should have, in the past tense, stayed out of Iraq and Afghanistan and every other place that we've meddled in, because nothing good ever comes out of that meddling. Like, in general, I don't like the idea of meddling, but at least if there was some positive effect that could be demonstrated, I'd at least be willing to look at it and say, well, maybe in that one instance it was worth it. But
Well, yeah, beyond
what
beyond
was
South Korea, where have we gone, spent time and fought that the minute we left, they weren't like, oh, fuck America.
And South Korea is arguable because let me ask you this: where we lost in Vietnam, where we stalemated in Korea, there is no North Vietnam. There is a North Korea. And had we gotten out of Korea sooner, maybe the communists would have conquered the entire peninsula and we would have not had Hyundai cars. But
Well, that's a plus.
maybe. But you can go to Vietnam right now. They're not hostile towards Americans. They're not it's a country that kind of went through a communist phase, and even though they may officially still be, I don't think they actually even call themselves communists anymore. But that was 60 years ago. It's a done deal. They're past it. We've normalized relations. What all we did in North Korea is stall for 70 years that conflict, and North Vietnam would not exist the way that it exists right now were it not for the United States and what we did in South Korea.
Yeah, that case can be made.
That I'm making that case because it's absolutely, and you can look at the parallels with Vietnam, where we pulled out instead of creating this permanent ceasefire condition. Because that
Right.
war never concluded. It's a permanent ceasefire.
Right. Well, and then you look what more recently.
And the one guy that was probably did the most to fuck things up was Nixon, and the one guy that's tried to do the most to fix it was Trump.
Yeah. Well, and the most recent, you look at what happened in Afghanistan and Iraq. Those are not
Nothing
winning
good.
situations.
Those are not. Neither one has advanced the cause for America. In Iraq, there are more people that here's an example. If you look at the demonstrations on Al Jazeera of what's going on in different countries in the Middle East, most of them right now are chanting death to Israel.
Yeah.
Just like they've always chanted, right? Nothing changed there, except for Iraq, where the biggest chant is not death to Israel, it's death to America.
Yeah, well, they're both in that same
was
boat.
Worth billions of dollars, thousands of Americans' lives lost. For what? What did we get out of Iraq? A little oil temporarily?
Yeah, remember that was the whole
That's
thing.
it?
We're in there for the oil. Well, yeah, not anymore.
And how much money we literally shipped bricks, like pallets of American money there because
Well, it
they
is the
didn't
best
accept
cash.
credit. They only took cash. Don't send your blankets, just send cash.
That's the way this podcast should be. Just send crisp $100 bills to the P.O. box, please.
Yeah, we'll take those. So it was not a good move on the part of the U.S. The only people it really benefit are the people that create munitions, people that create military instruments. The military industrial complex definitely made money on all American wars. But for everybody else, they actually have a negative effect. Is it safer to travel in the Middle East now as a result of America being in Afghanistan and Iraq? Hell no. It's more dangerous.
But I get that Israel is an ally, and if they request help, I think
Are they an ally?
I believe so.
I mean, if somebody attacks the United States, Israel's going to attack that country.
I think Israel would send troops to help. I don't know how
Really?
much that they could really help. I mean,
How much did Israel do in terms of attacking Iraq during that war?
I really couldn't tell you. I didn't follow this
they
closely
did
enough
something
to know.
that was really hard to do, which is not attack Iraq when you're getting bombarded by Scud missiles.
Yeah.
In 1992.
But I guess the intriguing thing is if you are the country, as the United States has been, with, I would still say, the most formidable armed forces. Maybe that has slipped in the recent years.
We're like third rank right now.
But it's still up in the top.
Sure.
When you have allies that are smaller, I mean, if you have an ally in Chile, well, they can't really do much to help you militarily, but if I think you still help them if somebody is attacking them. So I mean, when you are the largest, it's hard to say like, well, that you're not having a sharing of military might. That's for sure.
No, you're not. What you're basically trading is, can we put a military base on your territory? Yes. Okay, great. We're allies. We'll protect you guys now.
Yeah, so we can
That's
have a
what it
place to
is.
refuel.
It's a place to rearm, refuel. But the problem with that is that while the U.S. does have more military bases than any other country in the world, we have bases, I think, in over 100 countries right now. There's a graphic, there's a video I watched that shows like every single U.S. military base location, and it's spread all over the world, and it's, I believe, in over 100 countries at this point. But that's not to say those countries' people actually like you.
Oh, no. No, there's no question about that.
No, you're just you're renting space. You're renting space from a country that dislikes you.
I mean, I've been told most of the people that listen to this show don't like either one of us.
They dislike us, exactly. So with Israel, I think they probably like America a little bit more, but Israel's certainly been mixed up in a number of anti-American spying situations, yada, yada, yada. But here's the part where I actually get controversial, because up to this point, I don't think I've said anything really controversial. I think that Israel has full rights to do anything to Gaza that they want. I don't think there's such thing as, that's against the international laws of warfare or some bullshit like that.
Right.
No, so there's two ways to look at it. One is either they're fighting an actual other country. And as far as I'm concerned, when a foreign country kills 1,000 of your people, that's an act of war. That's not an act of an individual. That's not an act of a group. That's an act of a country. And when that country kills that many of your people, how many Americans died in 9/11? And then let's just skip for now the actual cause of 9/11. And let's say that all the media were right and this was an attack by, the crazies from Afghanistan, even though they were all from Saudi Arabia. But let's just pretend. How many Americans died in 9/11? Do you know the number off the top of your head?
There were a couple of thousand. I mean, it depends if you're going long term or short term. But short term, it was only a couple of thousand, like 1,800 to 2,000 or something like that.
Right.
On that day.
Right. And then what was the American response?
Big, very big.
The American response was
Bomb them.
to bomb the country for a week. Incidentally, what did we bomb first? Well, we bombed all the infrastructure. We turned off all their power. We prevented their water system from working. And we blew up any kind of airports, any kind of places where they might respond back with. So they couldn't travel.
Right.
We blew up their train systems, their airports. They had no power because we blew up their infrastructure, their electrical grid. They had no running water. They had no refrigeration. And we're here cheering. And so is the rest of the world. So as a response to an act of another country, and incidentally, 9/11, as if we look in the rearview mirror, was clearly not an act of another country. It was an act of a group of people. And you can have an argument whether that group was even from the Middle East or whether that group was from the industrial military complex.
And it's done for a reason. It's done because you get to, as a terrorist organization, you get to do the same thing. You get to attack a group, but you don't have to defend because, well, wait, you're not a country. How are they going to get you?
Right. So here's my take is, I'm going to blame every single person that lives there. And I can do that because they haven't routed the terrorists
right,
and brought them to the Israelis saying, here, spare us. Here are the guilty parties.
Well, and the same case is made for the bad neighborhoods in Chicago. This works locally too, which is why do the criminals take over these neighborhoods? Because the people living there let them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like the old saying, right? All it takes for evil to triumph is for one good man to do nothing.
Absolutely true.
And so whether you look at Palestine as a sovereign nation that just attacked another sovereign nation of Israel, or whether you look at Palestine as not a sovereign nation, and it's hard because these people want to make both arguments at the same time. They want to say, well, Palestine, is a country under occupation by Israel. Okay, well, if it's a country, then we have one country attacking the other country, and it is absolutely the proper response for the country that just got attacked. And as people have pointed out, if you look at not just the huge number of people killed, which is the most Jews since World War II in a single instance.
Well, and that
but
was
you
the
look at
case.
that as a percentage of total population.
Right.
This is equivalent to losing over 100,000 Americans in one day.
Yeah, exactly what the great one Mark Levin said.
What's the response going to be? Well, yeah. Sorry, but all the Levins and the the Bens are all going to come out in support of Israel. I'm trying to stand very neutral on this topic because I think there's plenty of shit that Israel's done and continues to do. I don't like their politics. I don't like their structure that their legal system is built on. I don't like just a lot of the shysters that I've met that were from Israel. There's a lot I don't like about Israel, but in this particular instance, it is undeniable that what you have is a country attacking another country. And even if you say, well, that's not the case, fine. Then let the people, if it's not representative of all Palestinians, if Hamas is not Palestine, then let the Palestinian, which they say is the biggest population, the highest density population in the world. There are more Palestinians in Gaza Strip per square mile than any other population anywhere, which I find hard to believe because I've been to places like Tokyo, which are insanely crowded. And I haven't been to India, but there's a few places in India that are super crowded that I've seen videos of. But either way, you've got a ton of people, and you're saying, well, Hamas is like a few thousand people out of a population of 7 million. Great. Let these 6.999 million people get rid of the 2,000 people, hand them over to the Israelis and say, there you go. Now you have no conflict with the Palestinians. You just have conflict with the Gaza or with the Hamas.
Right. Because what do you think any of these other countries would do if a paramilitary group went in, caused all sorts of damage, and then came back to their base in Chicago?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think would happen if the Mexican cartels killed several thousand Americans in the United States and then crossed back into the Mexican border? What do you think the U.S. would do to Mexico at that point? Oh, I'm sorry. All the borders would disappear overnight. America would not say we're at war with Mexico, but we would sure as fuck occupy Mexico. And I mean the whole damn country. I don't mean just a couple of square miles. There's a great movie called Serpico, very well shot, that essentially talks about some of these potentially extra legal American forays into Mexico as part of the drug war. But it's just fun movie to watch. It doesn't talk about this topic at all, but it's just an interesting thing that I was reminded of. But yeah, imagine if this happened where a group, and we know these cartels exist, we know they're violent. Imagine, and they do kill people. They just only kill 1 or 2 people a day, not 1,000 a day. But imagine if one of these cartels came into New Mexico or California or Texas and killed several thousand people. Do you really think that the U.S. response would not be to bomb the shit out of any place that they have a suspicion these people are located? Did you guys forget what happened during Obama, during another liberal president's term, or maybe I should say Obama's first term rather than his third term, when we were literally bombing cafes in the Middle East that had one potential terrorist, somebody that was on our list, and 35 non-combatants that were just,
having coffee.
Targets. Yeah. It's like, no, we don't even think about this stuff twice. And and yet we've got a shitload of people now that in this country, in the U.S., are say, well, yeah, but so here's the buzzword I want you all to remember, because it's very apparent, and you'll start hearing it every time now. As soon as somebody says, but Gaza Strip is an open air prison, that term,
Right.
open air prison, is literally a PR term created by the whoever you want to call the opposition, whether it's Hamas or PLO or any of the other groups that really hate Israel. There, that term open air prison is factually inaccurate. It's just not true, but it has a good ring to it. And for Americans that can't find Ukraine on the map,
Well, yeah.
sure as hell couldn't find Israel on the map.
Most people
All they
have
know is
no
it's
clue
somewhere in
what's
the Middle
going
East.
on in their backyard. They're certainly not going to know what's going on there.
No. And they're hearing this term like, oh, it's an open air prison. Oh, that's so, yeah, those Israelis, they're horrible. They have all those people in prison. It's not a fucking prison. It is an area that was part of Egypt. And that, again, people don't know the history of that, of that part of Israel. It was literally part of Egypt. It was controlled by Egypt. And when Egypt attacked Israel, it was one of the territories where the Israeli tanks pushed back the Egyptians far enough back that this became controlled by Israel. So it is conquered land. And for the entire history of the world, both Eastern and Western world, this is how borders get drawn up. When you attack somebody and you lose, guess what? Your borders change. Your borders change, and that land that used to be your land, well, now it's somebody else's land because you attacked them. And that's exactly what happened there. And because the Israelis are too goddamn liberal and they're too stupid, they didn't do what they should have done, which is made that part of Israel once and forever, and then have laws that allowed people to sell their property and move the fuck out of Gaza and into other Arab states. Instead, they kept trying to have this Arab Muslim area that's self-determined bullshit. It's honestly their fault for being too weak. And like I said, there's plenty I don't like about Israel, including their liberal ass politics. People think they're conservative. They're nowhere near conservative. You know what the gun rights in Israel are? They suck. People have this impression that all Israelis have guns. Yeah, for a year and a half, for 18 months when they're in the military service. Beyond that, it is hard to get permits for guns compared to the United States, where we don't really consider it all that easy here either. But Israel is definitely more liberal than the United States. But the United States is fast pushing in that direction and trying to become a lot more liberal. So, to me, this is all on the same, it's self-evident. It is obvious to anybody that actually starts to think about it a little bit that if you like Palestinians and you think that they're being mistreated, well, point the finger at the rest of the Arab world, because you literally are looking at an area on the map which is 95% Muslim, which has genetically the exact same people living on it as Palestinians, and at the same time has immigration prohibitions to allow Palestinians in.
And this conflict is almost as old as time itself, it seems. So anybody that thinks that there is
it's
an
been around for a
answer,
while. Yeah. I mean, even the name Palestinian, you know where that originally comes from, is it was the Romans wanting to remove any association of the Jewish ancestral lands from Jews during the conquest, and then referring to it as the what was the original name? It wasn't Palestinian, but it has the same root, or the root of Palestinian is from that that word or that region, but it was literally a name given to the area by the Roman conquerors, not by the Jews that lived there 2,500 years ago. So it's really hard to say that this is the Palestinians' land when the reason that Jews didn't live in Israel was because they were conquered and got kicked out of there. First by the Romans, then by the Ottomans, by the Arabs, Ottomans. I mean, Jews have typically been a fairly small group, so it wasn't all that hard to conquer them. And in this instance, this is the place where they spent a large amount of time all in the same area. And it really wasn't anything other than military conquest that led to Jews being pushed out of what is currently Israel. So symbolically, that's why Israel is where it is because that is the historical ancestral homeland of Jews. Also because when it was given over by the British Empire, it was a territory of the British Empire, Palestine was, and so they were able to do that. but it's like, it seems crazy to me to think that the dislike for Israel becomes an automatic like for Palestine. If Palestinians were innocent, then most likely Hamas would not have existed. But even if it did exist, certainly after something as grievous as this, there would be a huge push by the Palestinian people to hand over the criminals, the people that killed civilians, the people that massacred. I mean, you can't call something, I don't know if I would refer to like a 20-person shooting as a massacre, but 1,000+ people, yeah, that's a massacre.
Yeah, that would seem to qualify.
How do you not hand them over? And instead of that, you have protests with Palestinian flags, supporting Hamas.
Yes,
Hamas is the Palestinian people. And that's why it is absolutely appropriate for Israel to go after every person that lives there.
Ned believes the word you were looking for is Judea.
No, it wasn't Judea. No, it was. It wasn't. It was like the Palpatines or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was a. It wasn't. It wasn't the Jews. It was. It was a group of other settlers that came to that area. And I keep thinking Palpatines, but that's obviously not it.
You're watching too many Star Wars movies.
That's a Star Wars, yeah, right?
The Emperor Palpatine. Ha ha! You will come over to the dark side, Gene.
Mm-hmm. But it's ridiculous, and it comes from a lack of knowledge of history, and it comes from a lack of understanding of what really has happened in the pre-20th century. Like all borders for every single country that exists today were created as a result of conquest. That's how it's always worked. And incidentally, the one of the very few examples of that not being the case was when the Soviet Union broke up and it split up. Places that were never countries became countries. One of which was Ukraine. It's never a country. It's always a region, and it was a region for literally 1,000 years.
Well, I was intrigued by the response immediately that the Palestinians, upon hearing the news of what was going on in Israel at the very start of this, were like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, that's because they're all part of Hamas. That's my point, is that there's no difference between Palestinian and member of Hamas. It's literally the same thing.
This is our team. These are our guys.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing was, within like 20 minutes, they seemingly realized, oh shit, if we're doing this to them, we know what's coming here. And this is why this is so disingenuous with the assholes like Ilhan Omar and others that are like, Oh, our side, and make no mistake, that's her side.
Oh, totally. She's
Gets
got
to
their
it-
flag. She's got their flag hanging in her office.
You don't
Like
get
full
to
size.
right. You don't get to attack and then go, oh, ceasefire. No.
Yeah, it's that. No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's a hell of a deal if you could do that, where
Yes.
you can go kill a bunch of people and then immediately call for ceasefire, and then
Uh-huh.
wait another couple of years, attack a bunch more people, and then immediately call for another ceasefire.
Right. Because we don't want you to target citizens like
That's
we just targeted.
Yeah, no, that ain't how that works. And anybody that I mean, there's so many commentators and everybody else getting on. It's like, well, Israel, is doing war crimes. You know what? What are you going to do about it?
Right. And what this
Seriously,
very much
you're have hot air passing out of your mouth. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to elect somebody in the United States that's going to attack Israel because they're too harsh on the people that just killed more Jews than ever since World War II? Really? Good luck with that.
right.
Because I'll tell you something else. Israel has nukes. They've had nukes for a long time. And the reason, I don't want to say it's the only reason, but part of the reason that Israel has never used nukes was because of a guarantee from the United States
Right.
of safety.
What you want to
That
ask
was a
why the
trade-in.
United States is involved with Israel, that's probably a
Yeah,
big part of it.
That is why. Because when Israel got nukes, and again, people are like, oh, yeah, well, they stole them from the United States. Well, you know what? When half the people that worked on the program were Nazis and the other half were literally Jewish, they had Jewish last names. It's hard to argue who stole what.
Yeah.
Because really, if we look at it, it's the Americans that stole. That's not a word. It's the Americans that stole the guys developing the nukes from Germany. So and mostly did it to prevent Russia from getting them. I think like actually developing nukes was secondary and preventing Russia from getting nukes was primary at the time.
Well, there is now the thought. I mean, again, these are what talking heads are saying. I mean, not the band, because that would be a lot cooler, but that this is all in order to bring around the battle of the United States versus Iran. That is the end meaning for all of this, is to bring that about. Do you think that's the case, or is that?
Yeah, I think Iran's gotten a screw deal from the United States for a long time. I actually posted in No Agenda Social a story that talked about the CIA now admitting to the fact that they did topple. They were responsible for the coup in Iran in what was 1956, 1952, whatever it was, that brought in a very U.S. friendly, pro-Western dictator into Iran, and who eventually got toppled over by the revolution of 1979. And then of course we had the incident with the hostages being held in Iran, American hostages, for about a year, I think, maybe a little less.
Yeah, until
basically
Reagan took office.
Reagan got elected. Yeah, exactly. So that was convenient too. And you got to, like, as just a normal American citizen, who's like, yay, Reagan got him out. As somebody that's a little more astute in politics, you have to think about this. Like, if somebody is released immediately after somebody else is elected, how many months were those talks being held behind closed doors with somebody who wasn't representing the U.S. government? Like, it literally was Reagan's team as private citizens were negotiating with Iran and making promises that if we get elected, then these certain things will happen as long as you release the hostages.
And they did.
Isn't that literally what they're suing Trump for?
Yeah.
Was for having conversations with Russia about what would happen if he gets elected.
Well, Trump is the new Reagan. I mean, I know not in every aspect. So
I mean,
before
I
people
hope
start bitching, but he
Yeah.
has. Well, he was probably the last extremely strong president that other countries didn't want to fuck with. Not to say
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
since then has
Mhm.
been a pushover,
Mm-hmm.
but the story that I've heard from Bill O'Reilly, who I know a lot of people hate, but he's a buddy of Trump, so he has some inside information into Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And the story that I've heard when it came to Iran, because you remember we took Soleimani out,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the main guy funding the Hezbollahs and the Hamases and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember there was all that saber rattling. We're gonna hit the United States back. This will not stand.
Mm-hmm.
And the story was that Trump went back to Iran and said, "Look, you do anything to us, what I'm going to do is bomb the fuck out of your 3 ports, which all your food comes in, and I will starve your people."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a very realistic thing that at the time the United States could have done. Right now, can't do it.
No, not.
So it's the moment is fleeting. It's past.
Which is why you would see that Iran's going, well, look, we now have a non-strong leader in Joe Biden, which the next presidential election is only in a year. So there's a lot of things going on in the world that may have an expiration date if the rest of the world, if Iran feels like Donald Trump might be back in a year.
Yeah.
That speeds a lot of things up.
It does. And then just briefly, let me recount a theory that I can't remember. I probably said it on Just the Good Old Boys rather than this show, but
which is another show everybody should listen to.
Show, yeah, that's
even
right.
though I've never listened to it, I should add that to my
you probably should,
my Podverse thing here.
You use one more person there, but
do you need a third person in that show now that your other guy's backing out, so I can fill in?
I know, right? Jeez, I need somebody filling in on a part-time basis when he can't make it.
Do I have to do like a Southern accent for that show?
Yes, you do. You have to come in with a Southern accent. You have to say nuclear.
Nuclear.
No, nuclear. Yeah, you say nuclear.
Nuclear.
Exactly. He's going to give me shit for that later.
Read my lips. Is he listening? Is the dude named Ben listening to the show?
He does listen to the show. Yeah, no, he does subscribe and he does listen because he tells me shit. Like usually a day after we record, he'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe you said that." So he does listen.
Well, thank you for listening, dude. Named Ben.
Yeah, I don't think he's donated, but he listens.
Whoa! Well, I mean, if he's going to donate, do it with Satoshis and only to my side.
Yes, bypass me. That's right.
Bypass Gene completely. Everybody's happy.
It's convenient when I sent you the info for how to add me that you quickly figured out a way to bypass me anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, we figured it out within a week.
Let me get to the point, though. The point I was getting to was that my conspiracy theory preposition, and I don't think this is a highly, it's not like a over 50% likely thing or anything, but my conspiracy theory is that you have to look at who was this attack in Israel? Who benefits from this? Who does this benefit? And you can start checking off the countries that it doesn't benefit. Like it doesn't benefit Israel. Doesn't really benefit Palestine or Palestinian people in the occupied territories, does it?
No, because war is never going to be good for either side.
You don't want it on your home step. So yeah, it's not good for that. Potentially benefits the U.S. arms manufacturing companies. So there's one potential.
Yeah, they're making money.
They're making but they were already kind of making plenty off of the Ukraine stuff. So this is like opening up another money set of contracts coming in their way. Also, very good for China because it takes a lot of the focus and the saber rattling off by Americans off Taiwan, because before you get around to protecting Taiwan, how about you protect your closest ally, Israel? That'd be nice, right?
Well, yeah, this is all. It's a split. I mean, one was we've talked about the United States military has shrunk under Joe Biden, so which means
factually
there's only so many places you can be deployed. Yeah. And if you're deployed in Ukraine, if you're now if you're going to go help Israel, well, you don't have a lot left to help out if other things are going on.
And regardless of how many people you have, you never want to fight on a split battlefield. Like that's if the U.S. Here's another controversial thing. So the U.S. came into World War II kind of late as a result of Pearl Harbor. We were, doing we're definitely sending equipment and stuff to England before that, but really the U.S. joined World War II right about the time that the Hitler's war machine was already running out of steam. And by the time that Japan maybe wasn't necessarily running out of steam, but I'll tell you what they were running out of is steel. Japan was absolutely running out of steel, and they'd spread themselves way too thin by conquering a bunch of islands, like the Philippines, between basically all the islands between the Philippines, Indonesia, and then up to the Sea of China. That territory could not be controlled and held by a Japanese force very effectively. So there is a bit of a, I think, overestimation of American might. It's kind of like if you go into a boxing rink with somebody that's a boxer, but you do it in the 7th inning after they've just fought another boxer for 7 rounds.
The 7th inning. You're mixing metaphors.
I know. This is how sports I am, right? So
all you know is hockey,
round,
right?
Yeah. So 7th round, when they're already pretty beat up and like they're gassed, their punches aren't going to land as cleanly. They're not going to have as much power. They're breathing hard. And then you beat them. You can't honestly say, well, we beat them because we were the better boxer. At that point, you were a decent enough boxer to beat them, but they were already halfway to being beaten, or more than halfway. And so I think this is true for both the Germany and for Japan. And I mean, Italy basically was doing nothing by the time US came in. They were playing in the sand. They were building little sand castles. That was about it. So it really, I think we created, and the US was the only country that was not bombed, other than Pearl Harbor, during World War II. And so there was not a damaged infrastructure the way that it was in Europe, certainly in Asia, because China was being bombed by Japan. Japan was bombed by the U.S. So post-World War II, U.S. had the best economy. It was pretty evident. We also did that killer deal with Europe where we would basically own their ass because of all the expenses that we had for World War II, the land lease program. So I think that as a result of that, there for many, many years, there's this idea of the U.S. as being the most best prepared, most armed, most high tech, best soldier army on the planet, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
But yet, during that same time, we'd managed to not win anything. All the conflicts we were in either ended in stalemates or us leaving.
Because it was all about money changing hands?
Well, I'm just saying that we're good at PR. We're good at marketing. We've always been good at marketing. But the problem is when you start drinking your own Kool-Aid, when you start believing your own propaganda. It's fine to have propaganda. It's fine to lie about how things are doing because that is all part of warfare. That is a part of affecting the guys you're fighting without having to fire any bullets.
Well, so especially now with social media.
It's always been the case. And
yeah,
so
but now it's even more so.
Dude, if you watch the World War II era American journalism, in quotes,
yeah, well, true.
It is more propagandistic than what we have today. And what we have today is pretty fucking propagandistic. But it was literally, showing the Japanese as subhuman. It was without laughing about it. Like in a non-funny context, it was just showing them as being these little rodents. They're little rats trying to scurry and steal our cheese. You know, this is I think a normal thing that always happens. The problem lies when people start believing their own propaganda. Then you have to separate the propaganda from reality. As long as you understand where reality lies, you can utilize propaganda to advance your cause. If you start believing your own propaganda, if you don't think your farts smell, if you, what other analogies can I bring in here?
I don't know, but Ned said that you're kicking the shuttlecock through the hoop for a touchdown.
Perfect. I think that's a great way of explaining it, Ned. You're right on the money with that cricket reference. So good job. But that's essentially what's happening right now. Is I think that there's a certain contingent on both left and right, and more so on the left than the right, but plenty on the right, that believe the propaganda that we've created, and then think that, well, if that propaganda is true, and we know it's true, it must be true. Well, why aren't we just doing this? Why don't you just we should go kick Iran's ass. We should go kick Russia's ass. We go kick China's ass.
Well, that's what's going to end up happening eventually, right? The whole world.
No, what's going to end up happening is the United States is going to get its ass kicked 3 ways to sunset.
Yeah. But
And
that's
then
what a lot of the folks want, because we were too successful as a country, which is, again, if you're trying to go for equality, equity, whatever the buzzword of the day may be, you either raise everybody else up in the world, but that's too hard, or you make the United States a shithole communist country, which is something like Ilhan Omar.
It's going to be a shithole communist country if we keep going down the path. But my point is that we can still get there. We can still be a shithole communist country without at the same time losing half our population.
True.
But they want both. They want both for us to fail completely and utterly, and to also lose half our population in wars. Because that's the math is right there. Do the numbers, people. How many people live in China? How many people can they afford to lose in a war against the United States?
More than we have.
I think they could lose 1-to-1. They could lose a Chinese person for every person that lives in America today. They could lose 300 million, and they would still have a country.
Well, I think it's interesting, this hospital bit in Gaza.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
This is a perfect example of modern warfare and propaganda.
Yep.
And it's very interesting when you have United States representatives and senators disagreeing publicly about, which also does not help the United States look like a non-banana republic kind of a country.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is where,
dude, we have a guy in the White House who wasn't elected, and we have no House of Representatives. What do we look like right now?
a bunch of bozos.
We are a banana republic.
Yeah. But it shows that now with this instantaneous communications mixed in with the fact that you can make video, audio, images, all say something you want it to say, whether it's true or not. And people believe it because they see it. Creating a video that makes it look like anything happened is child's play right now. So for to believe this, like, well, no, it immediately on X we saw this, and that has to be true. It's like, or the assholes that did it made the video and then put it out on X. It's
I think there is some objectivism here that can be had. I mean, you could say, well, you can make anything look like anything. Fair enough, but that only works for convincing people that don't have the actual information.
But where is the actual information coming out of Gaza? Who do you believe? What is the source that you're going to get what you believe is truthful information?
So I think that there is sufficient evidence that exists, even unclassified evidence, to show that what happened in Gaza was a failure of a rocket launch team combined with the success of a public relations team.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
They instantly turned this into a like, oh my God. But we also saw this in Ukraine twice, at least twice, where they were alleging war crimes, bombing our own, well,
wasn't it there was the Russia missile landed in Poland, and then it was like, oh wait, sorry, that was Ukraine. Hey, sorry, our mistake. It's that knee-jerk blame the other guy thing, where right now a lot of the world, not just America, but a lot of the world is happy to believe that, oh yeah, must have been those evil Israelis doing this. And again, Israel's got tons of problems. I don't think. Look, I don't live there because I don't want to live there. I could live there. Don't want to live there. I'm still looking for the next place after Austin that I'm going to move to. But but compared to Hamas, really? That's who you're going to believe? You're going to believe the guys that literally just went out, filmed their own videos of killing concert goers, and that's the people you're going to believe when they say, oh, yeah, those bad Israelis just hit a hospital. It reminds me of like the gangbangers going out and shooting people and with the making videos. It's like, really?
Well, because they don't see a problem with that, because they're surrounded. Because again, every Palestinian is Hamas. There's no difference. It's the same group of people. You can't separate the two. You can't say that there's this small little tiny faction of evil people called Hamas that do these vile acts, and then everybody else is just kind of doing their own thing. No, that's not what it is, because if it were, then Palestinians wouldn't be celebrating and chanting for this Hamas act. They would be reaching out to Israel saying, hey, we got your bad guys, and here's where they are right now. Go take them out. Leave us alone.
Right. We have the people responsible. Right.
And as long as the perpetrators of those acts are not either dead or handed over to Israel, then it is absolutely within Israel's right to keep going after every single house and every single building that is in that territory. Because you have to start with the realization that people that live there are providing comfort and safety to Hamas, which makes them Hamas.
It certainly enables them to do a lot of things. That is...
What did we do with collaborators after World War II? Same thing we did with the Nazis.
Buried them all 6 feet deep?
Well, I mean, yeah, or at least try them in court.
Right.
For their acts. Like, except, the ones that had a lot of money that they've accumulated in the interim, of course, those managed to get away. But for the ones that couldn't afford it, collaborators are absolutely no different than the perpetrators.
That is part of the game. And again, you can't have it where you're like, well, we're going to go commit the thing, and then we're going to be like, no, hands off, unfair. Like, no, you don't.
That was that literally was the storyline or the plot to Woody Allen's movie called Bananas, which was about his idea was the best way for this failing banana republic that doesn't have any money to get money is to attack the United States and quickly have the United States conquer it and then provide money for rebuilding.
Yes, please take over our country.
This isn't like a 1970s movie that Woody Allen made. I know some people don't like Woody Allen in lieu of the accusations, but that aside, I think the guy made some brilliant fucking movies over the years. They're hilariously funny. If you like kind of more highbrow humor, I guess. But in Bananas, there's plenty of slapstick humor too, because that was one of his early movies. And so he's an American that ends up being becoming like the president or the main dude of this little tiny republic to execute this plan. And Anyway, it's a funny movie if you get a chance. If it's playing somewhere, or you
or you
wanna
can legally
watch something-
download it on the streaming
or
on
you
the
could do
streaming
that
service of
if
your
you're
choice.
Darren. If your name is Darren, then you'll probably download it illegally. But if you're not Irish, then you'll probably actually pay for it.
Right, because it's the Irish that download everything illegally.
Well, it's not the Polish part of you, that's for sure.
You don't know that. You do not know that.
I'm pretty, dude. I've known my share of Polish people. They're as a people, the Poles don't have the same kind of cheap ass attitude that the Irish do.
Wow.
I'm telling you right now.
What about the Russians? Pirate everything.
Irish? The Russians just don't believe in copyright. That's all.
Well, now because the evil West is the one that holds most of the copyrights.
No, it's way before that. No, this shit, dude. This is like 15 years ago. I remember you could go to the Russian Society of Music sites and download all MP3s.
That was one of the first, like for like a penny, where they were selling for like $1.
You had to cover their cost of internet. That was basically it.
Yeah. You got to have your own music, man.
So there's definitely that. Look, everybody, Russians have plenty of issues. The Americans have plenty of issues. The Israelis have plenty of issues, but you can't absolve people that are harboring murderers.
And beware the propaganda.
Yeah. So I'll start feeling sorry for Palestinians when there are no more Hamas in Palestine, and I think that's never going to happen.
Yeah, and the end of this conflict is most likely never going to happen in our lifetimes. I mean, at some point,
there is
one side may win and totally obliterate the other side.
Yeah, and that's the likely scenario here. And this is something I was talking to Adam about, is this idea that how different would the world have been if instead of the U.S. guaranteeing Israelis peace back in the 60s, in 1968, if they would not have done that, because probably by 1973, Israel would have used a nuke and changed the landscape of the Middle East politics forever. So either Israel would have emerged as a much bigger, much stronger big dog in the Middle East.
Yes.
Or they would have ceased to exist completely.
And I would believe in that case, Israel is not the small little country it is right now. But again, you talk about gaining land. At that point, you probably do have a much different landscape, a much larger Israel.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I think both Lebanon and Syria would be part of Israel right now.
Because basically they're sitting there with, hey, we are staying within certain boundaries because the United States will come in if they need to. It's
absolutely.
The big brother will come in.
It is the big brother will beat up the bullies that attack me kind of thing.
Yeah. Whereas if which is why for the people that are like, well, no, we should be totally isolationist, then you do have to realize that would have its own consequences. Would they be better or worse than what we currently have? Don't know.
Yeah, I'm more on that line. I just think we should be a lot more isolationist. I think that you focus on the problems you get at home and don't try and escape your problems at home by only focusing on foreign policy, which is seemingly what's happening right now.
Well, that's all we have is foreign policy until you get another attack on U.S. soil, which, with the amount of people coming in unchecked.
Oh, it's going to happen. I think, honestly, I almost had to make predictions like this because, everybody's like, yeah, you're such a pessimist. You're always doom and gloom. Trump's going to lose. You're all this guy. I'm like, well, yes, but I'm not. It's not my fault that the factors that I add up bring me to those conclusions, right? I'm not like striving to find the negatives. I'm just, of the things I talk about, here are the problems that I see, guys, and show me something that changes, and maybe the factors will change, and I won't believe that anymore. But the shit that I was saying, literally, when on January, even before that, in November 3 years ago, the stuff that I was saying about now that Trump is lost, we need to find a fresh new candidate because we cannot run Trump again because he is unelectable. And we know he's unelectable because he should have won the last election, but yet the Democrats figured out a way to make him lose. It'll happen again. And everybody kept saying, well, you're anti-Trump. I'm not anti-Trump. I voted for the guy twice.
You're a realist.
I'll vote for him a third time. I'm going to vote for him this coming time as well, knowing that he's going to lose.
And what the other thing people don't want to recognize, Donald Trump is not a Republican.
Mm-mm.
He runs on the ticket, but he is
Definitely
not a Republican.
No.
So the Republican Party needs a leader. It's not Donald Trump.
Before you go rush off to open the door for your wife,
I said she's going to be an hour late. So, I mean,
she is. Oh, well, shit. There we go. Cool.
But Adam and Dave are going to do a show at some
they'll
point.
They'll wait.
Okay,
so
sure.
They're listening to us right now anyway. They're enjoying this.
Well, hi, Adam. Hi, Dave.
Yeah, especially all those nasty comments you said about Adam in the first part of the show. I'm sure he was listening to that.
Oh, boy.
So much for Darren ever being a co-host.
I'm gone now, man.
That.
I'm never going to be on the stream again.
You may not.
The show may end at any minute.
That's true. If the show ends, you know that it's probably permanent.
Yes, right.
It'll never be back up.
We will disappear.
Because Adam likes us both too much. So,
yes, exactly. And that's
too
the
much
problem.
to be on the stream.
Sometimes the people you like too much are the ones you kill.
That's true. That happens all the time to me. Wait, I don't mean literally. I mean figuratively.
Uh-huh. Fake podcast.
Mostly the comedians that we talk about, though.
Yes. Yeah, we have nothing to do with their deaths.
No, nothing. But we seem to talk about them right before they die. Oh, well.
That'll happen.
Yeah. So relating, you brought up a topic and I was going to respond to it. It was the post-Israeli one. It was the, what was the last thing you talked about?
We've totally lost our trains of thoughts.
Yeah, I know. I did.
We should because then we're like, what? Maybe David and Adam are coming on.
No, they're not coming on. What's the, no, because I was just going to finish the damn topic. It was Trump. So
not being the leader of the Republican Party
in the work is that Kennedy's running as an independent.
Right.
That has a potential to do a Ross Perot on the Democrats.
Maybe, but here's the thing. He brings in the anti-vax folks, whether you like the vax or not, don't care. But the anti-vax folks are mainly going to be Trump supporters, I think.
But if they're Trump supporters, they're not going to vote for a guy that has no chance of winning. They're going to vote for a guy that they think has some chance of winning.
But there's a certain amount, you're right. There's a certain amount of Republicans, though, that will vote for him over Trump, where having any choice for the Republican, where they would go, well, fuck Biden. I'm not going to vote for Biden but they don't like Trump. If they would vote for him, that is the question, who it would take votes away from. And I'm not too sure yet.
Well, remember, Clinton got elected with 31% of the vote. So he had a very small number of votes compared to the people that voted for Ross Perot.
It's that damn electoral college, man.
And voted for, what's his face?
Good old what's his face. I'm Rouse.
Yeah,
You're the boss.
Well, it is the electoral college, but he still got a minority of the electoral college. I mean, he did not get 50%.
But yet won.
Yeah, because he had more than anybody else.
You don't have to get a majority. Maybe that's a rule which should be changed, huh?
Well, there's a few things that should be changed. I don't like the fact that we only have two parties because it means that now in both of the parties right now, there's a battle for what does the party mean. You have the socialists versus the old school liberals, and you have the populist conservatives versus the rhinos. So it's like, really, we need four parties here. We need to just be able to vote for people that represent us, not constantly be trying to find the least of the compromised folks.
We need more parties and less ranked choice voting.
I have no expectation that somebody like a Ron Paul is going to be the official candidate for the Republican Party ever. It's just not going to happen. There's not enough people think the way that I do, and Ron Paul would have represented my views closer than any other politician, probably. And so consequently, I would much prefer that we have more parties than the big two always engaged in politics. And that most countries have that. Most countries don't have just two parties. They have multiple parties, none of which is over 50%. So no single party can dominate without doing some kind of deal with at least one other party.
Yeah, but single parties are way more fun than married parties.
Speak for yourself, man. Clearly not a swinger.
Join us again next week as Gene will tell us all about his swinging exploits here on Unrelenting.